Assalamualaikum, we are from Group 2. In this video, we are going to explain about budgeting. Firstly, let me introduce you to our group members. Number 1 is Aiman Naquiyuddin. Number 2 is Nur Azmina. Number 3 is Mohammad Hariz Azwa. Number 4 is Syafini. Number 5 is Mohammad Ikram. This is the content for our video.
Budget is a quantitative expression of a plan in advance of a period to which it relates and also includes revenues, expenses, assets, liabilities, and cash flows. It will be prepared before the period starts and wait to be approved by the top management. And lastly, budgetary control refers to the controlling process of budgeting. Now we move to the purposes of budgeting. Firstly, we need to plan the budget to carry out the project. Secondly, communicate between top management and labor about guidelines or policy for budget preparation. Thirdly, motivation of the organization to achieve the objective. Besides, the project can serve as an authorization to managers. Furthermore, firms may use budgets for the purpose of control. And lastly, evaluate the results between actual and budgeted to find the difference. Key budget factor is the factor which limits the activities of the organizations. Second, budget should be prepared first before make the production. And failure to identify the principal budget factor at an early stage could lead to delays at a later stage. Step 1 is the planning the process, which set timelines and key deadlines. Step 2 is communicating about the process, which explain and distribute forms and assumptions. Step 3, programmatic goal setting, which get board agreement on goals and assumptions. Step 4, information gathering, construct budget details by program. Step 5, compilation and revision, leave plenty of time for review and revisions. Step 6, committee review. Step 7, final approval, have program and development committees play a role in making. And last step, implementation and management. Review actual income and expense compared to the budget on a monthly basis.
Next is forecasting technique. Forecasting technique divided into two, which are qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative consists of Delphi method, market survey, executive opinion, and sales force composite. Meanwhile, qualitative consists of two techniques, which are time series models and associative models. Delphi method. The Delphi method is a process mostly used in research and economics that aims to collect opinions on a particular research question or specific topic. To gain consensus, the opinions are collected from group of experts that are not physically assembled, normally through questionnaires. Market survey. In a market survey, interviews and surveys of customers are made to understand the task of the customer and tap the trend well in advance to deliver the right product or service according to the changing needs of the customer. Executive opinion. As the name suggests, the executive or managers are involved in such forecasting. This method is very similar to Delphi method. However, the only difference here is that the executive may or may not be expert of the matter in question, even though they have the experience to understand the problem or situation and formulate a forecasting method that will bring out the best possible result. Sales force composite, a method of forecasting future demand for a product by adding together what each member of the sales force expects to be able to sell in his or her territory. Next is for qualitative method. Firstly is time series model. This method look at historical data and identify patterns in the past data to arrive at a point in the future based on these historical values. Since the historical data has a pattern, it becomes evident that the data in the future should also have a pattern, and this method looks at cracking the pattern in the future so that there is very little deviance from the actual calculation and the outcome in the real world. Secondly is associative models, an alternative data model for database systems encompassing attributes about a thing in a record structure. Intelligence involves knowing information about some competitive factors like competitors, profitability, and turnover.
Technique budget is a process involving a physical budget. There are several types of technique budget. First, incremental budgeting, zero-based costing, rolling budget, and activity-based costing. The first technique budgeting is incremental budgeting. Incremental budgeting is traditional budgeting process generated by current period budget. Advantages of using incremental budgeting is stability of fund for the work properly, and second one is can simply impact the changes because always we same the budget year to year. Second type is zero-based budget, that a process allocate funding based on initiative efficiency. There are some of advantages of using zero-based budget. The first one is management can certify a spending cost for each process. And the last point is a retained foundation expenditure not evaluate. The advantages of using zero-based budget is time-consuming because there are quite a significant downside. A next point is gain through the short term to the encourage planning. A third type is a rolling budget, was a constant budget update by editing a current period. Advantages of using rolling budget is a continually company to performance to accurate data. Next, provide a change effective because have a realistic information. Advantages of using rolling budget it cause a conflict and confusion between employee. The next point is time consuming to acquire resources aside. And the last type is a activity-based costing was a system for record ratios and evaluation result expense of precision. Advantages of using activity-based costing is provide realistic and specific cost based on basis activity. The last point to enable to evaluate budget more efficiently. The advantages of using activity-based costing not optional for the small business because have a cost not recovered. And the last point is subsequently hard without any accessible data not always be available.
I will talk about feed-forward and feedback control. Feed-forward systems are proactive systems that anticipate future budgetary needs and take preemptive measures to address them. Some of the advantages are allow for proactive management and prevention of problems before they occur and help to optimize process and reduce waste. And the disadvantages are time-consuming and pricey system required. Second is feedback system. Feedback system is reactive system that provide information after an event has occurred. It aims to evaluate past budgetary performance and identify areas for improvement. The advantages are allow for adjustment to be made to the budget based on actual performance and provide a clear framework of monitoring. And the disadvantages are it can lead to a focus on short-term result over long-term goal and can be limited by the accuracy and timeless of data used in the feedback loop. Next, I will talk about motivational, behavioral, and ethical issues of budgeting. A budget affects everyone in the organization, whether it is preparer and user or performance evaluation. Argument against involving manager, where manager may not understand the organization financial situation, and manager should not be involved in budget making as it can lead to delays. Argument for involving manager, organization can create more flexible budget by involving manager in the process and the manager take ownership of their budget and are more accountable for their performance. Next part is budgetary slack. Budgetary slack is the difference between the cost or revenue estimate and the realistic expectation. Padding the budget involves overestimating expense or underestimating revenue to meet budget goal. People create budgetary slack to ensure they can beat the budget to improve their performance. And to solve this matter, they need to allow discretion to exceed budgeted costs when necessary, rather than relying on the budget. Participating budgeting, a process where managers who are held accountable for budget performance help to develop their own budget estimate. There are two styles of budgeting, which is top-down and bottom-up. Top-down is a system where junior managers are forced to meet budget target without engagement from higher managers. Bottom-up is the participative process in which people are at lower levels play an active role in setting their own budget. Next is motivational and ethical issues. To carry out operation according to the budget, personnel need to be motivated. Employees' trust is at risk when they conduct their duties in accordance with budget. Violation of this rule can lead to dysfunctional behavior, planning, and implementation. Dysfunctional behavior is when employees fail to do their job in morally proper manner.
Limitation of budgeting. Firstly, time consuming. Preparing the budget is a considerable amount of time having to get information and assigning responsibility to treat the data from various departments. Secondly, operation within set boundaries may affect encouraging result. Thirdly, resources needed for appointment as budget committees. And lastly, issues of dysfunctional behavior might be apparent. Next is beyond budgeting. Beyond budgeting is a way to put an end to the traditional budgeting process to adapt to the modern environment. What is the reason of beyond budgeting? It is because of the budget itself is already limiting, costly, and time-consuming. It may also create problem for some changes. Next is importance of beyond budgeting. Responds rapidly to threats and opportunities, enable and encourages continuous innovation, leads to loyal and profitable customers, and lastly, support good governance and ethical behavior. There is advantages and disadvantages of beyond budgeting. The advantages of beyond budgeting are faster response, innovative strategies, lower costs, and more loyal customers. And for disadvantages of beyond budgeting, there is a lack of a roadmap which details where a business is and where it wants to go. And budgets may be very deeply ingrained in an organization fabric and operating culture. There are 12 principles of beyond budgeting. First, values, governance, transparency, teams, trust, accountability, goals, rewards, planning, coordination, resources, and control. That's all from us. Thank you for your attention.